Nigeria finally get the revenge on Algeria beating them a few years ago as they beat Algeria 2-0 to advance to the semifinals, and Egypt shocked everyone, beating one of the favorites, Côte d'Ivoire, the winners of the 2023 AFCON, as they are knocked out, and Egypt also advanced to the semifinals. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the games today were crazy. I feel like a lot of people expected Algeria to beat Nigeria, and I also think a lot of people, including myself, expected Côte d'Ivoire to perform much better against Egypt, but against a lot of odds, Egypt end up beating Côte d'Ivoire and they advanced to the semifinals. But the games today were crazy. There was a lot of goals. There was a total of 7 goals from the 2 quarterfinal games today. And now Nigeria and Egypt are going to be playing in the semifinals. Let's look at the stats. Let's start off with this Nigeria versus Algeria game, because coming into this game, a lot of people had Algeria winning. I personally thought that Nigeria would be the better team and would win this game, and that is what ended up happening. But I know a lot of people that had Algeria winning this game. They're higher ranked by FIFA. They've been scoring loads of goals in this AFCON, which Nigeria have also. But realistically, Algeria in recent years, especially in the World Cup qualifying, were much better than a team like Nigeria. But in this game, it was all Nigeria. The Super Eagles were flying in this game. And for me, in my prediction videos, I was saying multiple reasons why both of these teams could win. If you look at Algeria, they have a lot more support in this tournament than Nigeria do, and their manager has some great in-game management. Now, obviously, I think Nigeria's team is better than Algeria, but Petrovic is a very good in-game manager, and if anything was going to help Algeria to get the win, it was going to be him. But to be honest, I don't think he managed this game as good as he probably should have, because this tournament, I think Petrovic has been a phenomenal manager with Algeria. Obviously, we saw him manage Switzerland teams in the past, which got crazy upsets against France, did well in Euros, were an incredible team. And with Algeria, I do think he's been a great manager for them in recent years. But in this game, I don't think his management was the best. I don't think his substitutions were the best. And I don't feel like he made the necessary changes that Algeria needed to make if they wanted to see a difference in that second half. Because in the first half, let's look at the stats. If we look at the first half, it was all Nigeria. First half, 68% possession for Nigeria, almost 70%. They had 7 total shots. They had many shots on target. And to be honest, the fact that Nigeria weren't leading from that first half is crazy, because also in my predictions, I was saying if Nigeria want to win this game, they need to score first. And the fact that Algeria held off for that whole first half, it showed us that they may be able to come back in the second half. And we saw it in that first half. We saw Akor Adams on a breakaway, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he misses the whole net, right? So we saw Nigeria have some very good chances, but they weren't putting them away. And that's exactly what Algeria wanted. Algeria, ideally, would have wanted this game to go possibly to extra time, maybe even to penalties. If not that, to win by maybe 1 goal. That's what Algeria were wanting. When Nigeria, on the other hand, they wanted to score multiple goals. And in the first half, that wasn't happening. So even though Nigeria were so dominant in the first half, they couldn't finish. They couldn't finish, right? But coming into the second half, I do feel like Algeria needed to make some changes. Now, if you look at the second half, yes, Algeria were better. In total, it was very even in terms of possession. But as you can see, Algeria still didn't really have any real chances. They didn't even have a shot on target in this whole game. Look at Nigeria's shots in the second half compared to Algeria. Nigeria were just so clinical throughout this whole game. In the first half, maybe not so much. In the second half, though, for sure. And if you look at the momentum in the second half, for that whole first 15 minutes or so, from the 45th minute to the 60th minute, all Nigeria. All Nigeria. Algeria barely got the ball. And then, obviously after Nigeria scored 2 goals, Algeria had to try and do something. They started holding the ball. They started playing better. But by that time, it was too late, right? And I feel like Nigeria coming into this game, from the very start of the game, they had better tactics than what Algeria had. I feel like in this game, Eric Schell came into this game with perfect tactics, and that was to press Algeria and to press them high. From kickoff, Nigeria were pressing Algeria in their own half. They were pressing them so high up. They were suffocating Algeria in the midfield. and Algeria couldn't do anything. And like I already mentioned, Pekovic, he didn't make the necessary changes in the second half. And in the end, Nigeria ended up winning this game, and I think it was deserved. If you look at the goals, that first goal from Victor Osimhen was an amazing header, an amazing cross by the Nigerian fullback, and it was an amazing header right at the start of the second half. And from then on, Algeria had to change something because now they're down. They were lucky to not be down for the whole first half, but now their lucks ran out and they're down. They needed to change something. Pekovic didn't make any substitutions for about another 15 minutes after this goal. And then Nigeria ended up getting the second goal. Once again, Iwobi with the assist of the assist. Iwobi has been fantastic in this tournament. Definitely one of the players of the tournament, the best midfielder in this tournament. And he passes the ball to Victor Osimhen. Nigeria on a breakaway. It was an amazing pass by Iwobi. Osimhen passes it to Akor Adams, dribbles past Zidane in net, and scores the goal. 2-0 for Nigeria. And at this point, it was game over. It was realistically game over. Algeria didn't change up anything for the first 60 minutes of the game. And yes, they did make some changes finally at this point, but it was too late. It was too late in my opinion, because at this point, now you're down 2-0. Akor Adams got the goal in the 57th minute. Simple goal, routine goal, perfectly cutting right through the defense with that amazing pass by Iwobi, and Nigeria win the game 2-0. And that's the end of the game. And I got to mention one player, Amura. He was so good in the World Cup qualifiers. How many goals did he score? Maybe 10 goals? I think he got double-digit goals. In this tournament, nothing. Nothing at all. He is the main striker for Algeria. And no goals. I think Amura has been very disappointing this tournament. I think if he was better, he probably could have scored in this game. But Algeria, they didn't perform good enough, and Nigeria get the win. And now the Super Eagles are playing in the semifinals. But who else is playing in the semifinals? We also saw another crazy game, and that was Egypt beating Côte d'Ivoire 3-2. I thought that Côte d'Ivoire were going to beat Egypt. Now, Côte d'Ivoire are obviously the current AFCON holders. They won the AFCON in 2023. And in this game against Egypt, I just don't feel like Egypt were good enough in their last game. I feel like for the first 90 minutes of that game, they just weren't performing that good. Then obviously in extra time, they did score the 2 goals. They were much better. But in full time of that game, they weren't good. And I expected in this game that it was going to be something similar. I didn't know if Hossam Hassan was going to make the necessary changes to their attack. But in the end, it worked out. It worked out. Now I will say, Côte d'Ivoire, they were the better team in this game. Look at the possession stats. 71% to 29% for Egypt, right? Egypt had pockets and moments in this game where they were the better team, but for a majority of the team, it was all Côte d'Ivoire. But the thing with Côte d'Ivoire is they just couldn't finish. They had so much of the ball, but where was the end product? There was no end product. If you look at the lineup, their midfield had a good game. I think Sangaria was good. I think Ulai was good. Kessié, he was okay, but their midfield and their defense had so much of the ball. But what did they do with it? They didn't do anything. They weren't getting enough passes to Ahmad. They weren't getting enough passes to Yan Diomande, even to the striker. Like, the attack wasn't getting enough of the ball. And what's the point? At this point, you have so much possession, but you do nothing with it. I feel like Egypt, their team was okay. They played good. They played good on the counterattack when they took their chances well. But Côte d'Ivoire was the better team. 100% they were the better team. I'm surprised that Egypt ended up winning this game. And the main thing is that first goal, that early goal by Omar Mahmoud in the 4th minute. Let me just try and find, I think it was this one, right? Yeah, in the 4th minute. Honestly, it was a defensive mistake by Kosunu. And I think he's a good player. He's a decent center back, pretty young player. But this game, you know, like, you can't make mistakes like that. Honestly, you cannot make mistakes like that, because if he didn't make that mistake, he should have 100% got to the ball. But I don't know if he tripped or he fell or something happened, but the ball went right through him. Mahmoud ends up scoring a very early goal, and Egypt dropped 1-0. And this, for me, ruined the game for Côte d'Ivoire. Because if Egypt didn't score early, Côte d'Ivoire could have kept playing how they were playing, but they didn't have to be so aggressive and trying to push forward, because then that screwed them up for the rest of the game. That's how they were caught out on the counterattack. That's how, Salah scored his goal. Rabia ended up scoring from a set piece, which, you know, it's kind of 50-50. But I feel like if Marmoush didn't score that goal so early on, I think Côte d'Ivoire probably could have won that game. But since he scored that goal so early on in the game, it changed everything, because now Côte d'Ivoire are down. They have to score. So they were trying to hold possession, but sometimes they were just forcing it. They were trying to force it. But in the end, it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough by Côte d'Ivoire. Now, I will say Mohamed Salah's goal was very good. That was a very, very well taken goal by Mohamed Salah. A great pass by Ashur. That was a fantastic outside the boot pass. Honestly, the pass to him was amazing as well. And then to slot that through to Salah, simple goal on the counter. And by that time, at the start of the second half, it was 3-1 to Egypt. Realistically, Côte d'Ivoire are not going to come back from that. But they tried. They kept dominating possession. If you look at the stats, you look at the first half, dominated by Côte d'Ivoire, 70% to 30%. You look at the second half, once again, dominated by Côte d'Ivoire, 72% to 28%. And Egypt are a team that, so far in this tournament, I think they've been okay defensively, but they haven't been the best. But Côte d'Ivoire, on the other hand, if you look at Côte d'Ivoire in the World Cup qualifiers, they were they were the best team defensively. People were saying that they were the best defensive team in the world. That's how good they were defensively. But in this tournament, what's happened with their defense? What has honestly happened with Côte d'Ivoire's defense? If you look at their games in this tournament, they conceded a goal against Cameroon. They conceded 2 goals against Gabon. They kept a clean sheet against Burkina Faso. But now they concede 3 goals against Egypt for a team who are winning 1-0 almost every game in the World Cup qualifiers. And now, yes, they're scoring goals, but somehow they're conceding almost as much as they're scoring. So I don't know what happened to Côte d'Ivoire's defense, but defensively, they weren't good in this game. And one thing about Côte d'Ivoire's manager, Emerson Faye, I feel like he needed to make some substitutions, some changes earlier on in this game. They were down 3-1. They were holding possession, but they were doing nothing with it. You need to make some changes earlier on. You can't wait till the 80th, 90th minute to put in new attackers. You got to do it earlier than that. He made one substitution in the 70th minute. The next substitutions came in the 80th and the 90th minute. That's too late for me. I think in a game like this, it's been 70 minutes. You've been holding majority of the possession. You've been caught out on the counter and conceded multiple goals against Egypt. And you've only been able to score 1, which was an own goal. You really need to try something different. Go all out. Put in 3 more attackers, because you have to. Because other than that, what's the option? Get eliminated? So for me, I feel like Côte d'Ivoire have been very good in this tournament. But in this game, defensively, they weren't good enough. The whole team wasn't good enough in terms of the midfield and the attack, because they were holding possession, but they weren't doing anything with it. And their manager didn't make changes soon enough. So that's what lost them the game for me. And that's why Egypt were able to win, as well as that early goal that definitely helped out Egypt a lot. But with that being said, the semi-finals, we have Morocco, we have Senegal, we have Egypt, and we have the Super Eagles, Nigeria. Who's going to win it? Stay tuned for my semi-final predictions. I will probably be releasing them tomorrow, so stay tuned for that video. And as always, if you enjoyed this little recap of the second day of the AFCON quarterfinals, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.